Welcome to the Talk Stocks podcast. I'm Alex, and I'm here with Maddie. How's it going?
Doing well. How are you, Alex?
Oh, just living the dream, the post Rafael Devers dream.
Yeah. I never thought
So,
this day would come.
so where were you when you found out that Rafael Devers was traded?
I was running errands and I saw the message on my phone from The Athletic, and I didn't believe it because
Yeah,
I thought it was a joke. But then I saw Passan mentioned in the headline, and I thought, oh, well, it has
yeah.
to be true.
I was prepping stuff for dinner. Like I had just put together like the stuff for crab cakes,
Ooh,
and
nice.
yeah, they were delicious. Um, and we've got a couple different Slack channels, one overarching Diamond Centric Slack, and then our Talk Sock Slack. And it popped first in the Diamond Centric Slack. And when I saw it originally, I said, "There's no way this is true." And so I clicked through to it because I was like, somebody's been spoofed or something. But I trust the people who work in the same organization that we work in, and it was just very much a like, there's no way this is real conversation for a while. And then, like you said, when Passon confirmed it, like it was like the world exploded. Um, I was kind of one of the Brock got the first piece up on the Talk Socks, just the breaking news, and I think that at last check that had almost 500 comments. um, and then I kind of broke down the four names that were sent back to the Red Sox for Rafael Devers. So I guess let's kind of start there and let's talk about the deal and kind of what's happening next. So for those of you who are somehow unaware, Rafael Devers was traded on Sunday evening around 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time, to the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are assuming all of the $245 million that were left on his contract. We'll talk about that, I assume, here in just a few minutes, too. In return, the Red Sox are getting right-handed pitcher Jordan Hicks, who came up through the Cardinals organization, was traded to the Blue Jays in 23 and was a pretty coveted free agent that the Red Sox came in second for in 24, behind ultimately the San Francisco Giants. Based on Craig Breslow's comments today, it seems like they're kind of penciling him into a setup closer role once he returns from a toe injury, which could be within the next week. That's assuming that they trade Aroldis Chapman come deadline time. We've got more to talk about on that too. We also get left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison, who at one point was Baseball America's number 26 overall prospect and MLB Pipeline's 23rd overall prospect entering last season. He'll start out in Worcester, where they will tinker with some mechanics and try to get his secondary pitches really going. He's bounced between the rotation and the bullpen out in San Francisco, but it kind of seems like they think that in general consensus that he has the ceiling of a front end number 2 starter. He works with a slurve and a changeup that both need some work to be usable pitches, but his fastball is nasty. And then we also get a couple of low minors players in the deal. Outfielder James Tibbs, who was selected
The third.
the third. Who was selected one pick after the Red Sox took Braden Montgomery, who was, of course, dealt to the White Sox for Garrett Crochet. And then we have right-handed pitcher Jose Bayo. So there are now two Bayos in the Red Sox system. Tibbs is currently he was with the Giants' high A affiliate, the Eugene Emeralds. He is expected to report to Portland to begin with the Red Sox organization in Double A. And Jose Bayo is in high A, he's at rookie level ball, and has been at rookie level ball for the past 2 years. He was an international free agent signing in 23. So that's definitely a gamble there on the Bayo inclusion to see if something sticks. from what there's not a ton of information out there about Bale at all. He has a wicked changeup and slider though. And at rookie level right now, he's sitting on a 2 ERA. He has 28 strikeouts over 18 innings. So there might be something there. It's just he's way too far off to make any kind of guesses as to what he could pan out to be. But that was the package for Rafael Devers and his $254 million headed out to San Francisco, who the Red Sox play in a mere 4 days from recording. We are recording on Monday night, so we're just over 24 hours out from the news.
Thanks for the rundown on the package the Red Sox received. That was a really helpful overview. Yeah, it seems underwhelming.
Yeah. So do we want to start with the fact that about 2 hours ago, it came out that there was another deal on the table that had the Red Sox eating some of the money that John Henry said no to?
Yeah, let's start with that. Huh.
There's no information about what that package entailed or who it was with. Speculation I've seen said that the Blue Jays may have been involved. I don't see them any way, shape, or form trading Devers within the division. So I don't think that's real. The Mets make a lot of sense to be that team, in my opinion. The Phillies made a lot of sense. And the Rangers, I think, made a lot of sense. I think because you're local-ish to Philly, right, Maddie? So you're a little more plugged into that market. But I think that just from a purely like we can't have too many good hitters. Is Bryce still injured?
Bryce is still injured.
Okay.
Yeah, he's dealing with a wrist issue, and his timeline to return is uncertain.
And so I think that was kind of the Philly connection, and I could see Dombrowski effectively giving the middle finger to the front office and being like, "Yeah, I'll take Devers, but you're going to pay $25 million of his salary." I actually think that's probably why the Giants deal happened, because Chapman is currently on the IL. And so Devers will effectively slot in as their starting third baseman for the time being, which is what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I could also see him giving the middle finger to Breslow and company and agreeing to play first base for them. Though they do have
that been confirmed that he actually said that? Have you seen that he supposedly told them that he would play wherever the team needs him, including first base? And Posey has come out and said that he would play third and first.
I did see the Posey comment, but not the supposed one from Devers.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that that's gospel because I couldn't verify, but it wouldn't shock me if come Friday night out in San Francisco, we see Rafael Devers at first base.
That would be so awkward. Just
especially because Breslow's on the trip.
Is he? Well, yeah, it looked like he was recording from,
yeah, so he was in the manager's office, the visiting manager's office in Seattle for the press conference. And then Sam was back at Roman Anthony, just hit his first career home run. Good job, Roman.
No way. Wait. I said he's going to hit it tonight. Manifested.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, everything's going to happen while we're recording.
Well, that's awesome. Breaking news.
Yeah. The second breaking news. The first breaking news was Connor Wong breaking his pinky.
Wait, what?
This is much better. What was that, like 6 episodes ago, where he had the catcher's interference and it broke during the recording that he had broken his pinky. So this is the second breaking news that we've had here on Talk Sox. Good for him. After that 2 RBI double, he's gone pretty quiet. So and we'll get to Roman and Marcelo and Campbell, and it says big 3, but you can't talk about the rookies without talking about Carlos Narvaez at this point either. So we'll get to Roman post Devers conversation. So an underwhelming return package, at least on the surface. Breslow seemed to kind of acknowledge that in the press conference. We're recording about an hour after the press conference ended. Do you agree with that? That Breslow kind of seemed to agree that, not agree, but he talked more about how on paper it is hard to see how the team is better without Rafael Devers, but then he pivoted to, but we don't play the game on paper, we play the game on the field, and we think that we will be better.
Yeah, sometimes with Breslow, he comes across as very condescending,
Mhm.
and, for him to acknowledge a mistake or an oversight was interesting, but then, I don't know, he said, it's about the product on the field, but he also seems like the analytical type to, plug something into his little formula on his computer and say, "Well, this is what this said, and this statistic said so." So he ignores the human element that was kind of
Yeah.
talked about in that Yahoo Sports article that you sent over.
Yeah, that I'm probably going to have something up about that article at some point tomorrow. Man, that really paints both sides in a not great light. Um, if, and I have no reason to doubt the reporting, uh,
Mhm.
if it's true that Rafael Devers felt that Christian Campbell agreeing to learn first was a slight to him, that's big time. That really is a personality that you probably don't want around these rookies. Um, because you would assume, and this was it Shaughnessy who had the first, or Abraham that had the first bit about, oh well, they paid him $300 million, and they felt that if you're paid $300 million, you should do what's in the best interest of the team, and they had enough, and so they traded him. So when that first came out, I was like, I could see that, because he did, and we talked about it on here. Like he wasn't taking pot shots at Breslow. Like he wouldn't call him by name, and at one point essentially said that he needed to learn how to do his job, and explore the free agent market, even though we were like 3 weeks into the season. Um, and so, I mean, there was some high tension there, and I think that if Rafi was insecure enough, and I kind of hate to say insecure, but if that's what I'm going to go with. If he was insecure enough to be bothered by a 22-year-old agreeing to do what's best for the team, that is a problem. And that's an attitude that you really don't want around guys around the big three and Carlos Narvaez and um, even Jaron Duran and Willier and Sadan. Like this team is young, and he was the longest tenured member. Now there are no members of the 2018 World Series championship team left on the active roster. Um, but if that was his opinion, I sort of see where the front office is coming from, and it's a reset. And I, from the way they're talking, Breslow's exact comment, let me pull it up, about not waving the white flag with this deal, I thought was very telling. Um, Rafael Devers hit his first home run in Seattle as a member of the Boston Red Sox as well. So maybe
Oh.
Roman's on pace to replace him uh, as the face of the franchise. But let me pull this up. Craig Breslow says that the Rafael Devers trade is not a sign that they're waving the white flag for 2025. And he did make the comment that, this does allow us to be more flexible. I mean, there was still $16 million on the books for this season for Devers that is now magically gone. I have a piece that's not up yet because it got posted about 4 hours before Devers got traded, about kind of what the Red Sox need to be doing and playing in the trade market. And I did say in it that really we need to be doing stuff now. I never would have assumed that Rafael Devers was the first domino to fall in that, but I think that that's true. And if Craig believes what he's saying, and there are people who hate Craig, there are people who love Craig, there are people who are indifferent on Craig. Um, if that's the truth, if Craig Breslow is planning to try to contend in 2025, yeah, go out and make some big trades. You've got money open now. I can't pronounce his first name, so I'm just going to call him the password. Is blocked at every position that he plays at the major league level, and he is tearing up AAA. Send him out, because he profiles in the Red Sox organization as Rob Refsnyder, a fourth outfielder. I don't want that. He has too much value for that. Send him out. Get something in return. I do wonder if this means that the Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu trade talks are going to significantly die down, because you do have an open hole at DH until Yoshida potentially takes over that role. It wouldn't shock me if he's traded, but I don't know. We kind of talked a little bit in the Slack channel earlier today about some starting pitchers, because there are some big name starting pitchers who will be free agents next year.
You have Zach Gallen, Dylan Cease, Michael King, Ranger Suarez. Like, there's a good group of starting pitcher free agents.
Yeah. Do you think that the Red Sox try to play in that market at the trade deadline to try to sign and then extend before the season's over?
I could see that. Extensions seem to be Breslow's bread and butter, since he can't hook any free or big name free agents on the open market. I don't count Alex Bregman in there because he came to the team because of Alex Cora. He could have taken more money with Detroit.
I think that we agree that, and we've talked about this in the Slack, Bregman is here however long his contract is, as long as Alex Cora is either the manager or is the Pobo. If Alex Cora is involved with the Red Sox, Alex Bregman will be here.
100%. And I think Cora maximizes
trading. Like, there's no way they trade Bregman, because Bregman's the reason all of this happened.
Yeah.
So you bring in Bregman, you trade Devers, and then you trade Bregman. Why'd you bring him in? Like,
yeah, that wouldn't make any sense, but yeah, I couldn't. Well,
things would have to go off the rails significantly for them to even consider trading Bregman.
I can't think of a decent return. I mean, I always think of the Phillies because I'm in Phillies territory. Yeah. But Alec Bohm, but even then, you kind of run into those Devers character issues with him.
Yeah. And he's willing to speak to the media.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's that. And to be fair, he has improved his defense a lot.
Yes.
From previous years. That's something Devers hasn't really done over the past 7 years.
No. But I think it'll be interesting to see. I guess the real question is, do we think that they're actually going to be buyers come the trade deadline if this streak keeps up? I'm not saying like they're going to win 80% of their games like the tear that they've currently been on between now and the trade deadline, but I think that if you're winning 65-70% of your games, if they're a half game out of the third wild card spot, they're 6.5 behind the Yankees. That's not to win the division is not out of the question. And 2 weeks ago, if you'd have asked me, I'd have said it was done.
That's baseball.
Yeah, and I think that's kudos to Alex Cora, who has managed kind of in defiance of what I think the front office wants him to do. I think that it's pretty clear that the front office wants him to play the kids and play them all the time. And I don't disagree with that stance, but Cora kind of got hung out to dry when, it came out the Yankees were starting Yarborough, Rodon, and Fried on this weekend series. And everybody was like, well, no, we're not going to see Roman or Marcelo. They're never going to get in the game. Like, I understand why Refsnyder and Romy started all of those games in some capacity. but we did end up seeing both of them in every game. And I think that just proved just how shrewd Cora was in his managing, because it really showed that he had a feel for, this is the lineup that I think I can put out to start the game and it's going to win, at least put us in a position to win. And then once we're up, once they take out the best pitcher in baseball in Max Fried, then I can get the kids some more play time and let them feel this rivalry and let them feel how big the moment is here at Fenway. And I think that he navigated this Yankee series with 3 lefty starters perfectly. And I mean, it helps that our starters have been on the hottest streak that they've been on all season. But I didn't have any complaints with how Cora handled any of this. The Yankee series in New York, the Rays series, or the Yankee series that just closed out this weekend. I thought that he managed them beautifully. And I think that he did manage them against what Breslow and company would want him to do.
Yeah, I'll reference that Yahoo Sports article again.
Yeah.
It touched upon that, and yeah, I don't blame him. The team needed momentum, and giving or starting Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer for those games wouldn't have been the best move to keep that momentum, and putting them later in the games against the Yankees, questionable bullpen, helped them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What good, especially Sunday, because they both sat on Sunday. He had alternated Friday and Saturday. Did Roman start Friday, Marcelo started Saturday, or vice versa?
I think Roman started the first game.
Yeah, I think so. But when the lineup came out for Sunday, the first thing I said was, I think this is the right call, having Toro at third, Romy at first, and Ref in right field, because I assume as of right now, because Crochet was charged with 5 runs that he shouldn't have been charged with in that first start in New York, because there was poor defense across the board. Crochet is probably out of the Cy Young conversation right now. I'm not saying he's out of it completely. I think that Crochet still has a very good shot to win it. But I think that kind of the odds-on favorite, kind of 1A, 1B, would be Max Fried and Tarek Skubal would be the two that I think are the front runners for the award right now. And, I mean, it was a 2-0 victory, and one of the two came from a Devers home run. But Max Fried looked beatable all game. That was only his 3rd loss on the season. The other 2 losses he gave up also 2 runs and 6 runs. So I think the Red Sox just play against good pitchers really, really well. Rodon has been kind of his old self this season. I think that he'll get some conversation around an all-star appearance. I don't think he's in the Cy Young conversation, but if Skubal and Fried weren't pitching out of their minds, I think that he would be. And we lit him up for the 2nd time. I think the Red Sox hit well against good pitchers. They should have won the game that Skubal started when in the Tiger series. They're the only team to hang 5 on Tarek Skubal this season. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's something about when another team's ace steps or high leverage guys step up on the mound, the Red Sox show up.
Yeah, they look good against Reagans and Seth Lugo too. So
Kodai Senga, they looked really good
yeah,
against Kodai Senga.
yeah, and that performance also translates to postseason success, because
Yeah.
a lot of people were dooming when the team had that really bad stretch, but there were a lot of positives to glean upon from that. And even without Rafael Devers, I think this team can still put it together and make a decent run into the postseason.
I agree 100%. I think, and I hadn't really thought about this, Devers has been on the 2nd coldest stretch of his career for the past 2 weeks, or of this season for the past 2 weeks. And in the face of that, the Red Sox have gone 8-2. Yes, he's hit home runs. He leads the American League in RBIs. if not the majors. It is a huge presence to fill. And Christian Campbell, who is currently DHing for the Boston Red Sox in Seattle as we record this, is not the answer to be the DH of the future. JD Martinez is still a free agent. Just throwing that out there.
Oh no.
But I think to fairly judge this trade, one, it's going to take years. Much like the Mookie deal. Now, we kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit more with the Mookie deal. And that's been the biggest comparison that I think I've seen the past 24 hours. I know we've talked about in the Slack channel, like it feels a lot more like the Nomar trade than the Mookie trade, because with Mookie, we had time to process. We knew it was
in the off season.
Yeah. It wasn't after sweeping the Yankees at home. But we knew it was going to happen. It was a foregone conclusion. And I think if we really took a step back, I think we all would have said, like, maybe Devers gets traded in 3 to 4 years. Let the contract play out a little bit, try to get his best years, and then try to get out from under it before you're fully underwater. And I mean, like we talked about, I was blown away, but the more that I've sat with it and the more that's coming out, I'm getting more and more okay with it. And that's not a stance that I thought that I would have.
I agree. I had a knee-jerk reaction to it initially where, I thought the season was over. I
The
didn't.
Slack blew up for about 4 hours.
That was crazy.
Like, we're always a little chatty in there.
Mhm.
And it usually gets off the rails pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But we all stayed on topic yesterday. It was. And I think, and I'll reference back what I just said. Like, I do think that it's going to take years to figure out if this trade is successful. If Harrison turns into that number 2 caliber starter, I think you could start calling it a success this year. If the Red Sox go and spend money, which I know has not been their forte since 2018, but if they're going to do that, then and spend money wisely, not Pablo Sandoval, Hanley Ramirez, spend money, but spend money for players that will actually contribute to a winning team and a winning culture in the clubhouse. I don't think that in 10 years, if we look back on this trade, if that does happen, it won't be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the Red Sox got fleeced twice in 5 years. It'll be, man, the Mookie trade didn't work out, but look what happened when they traded Devers. And that's my hope. And maybe I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to the Red Sox. That's my hope, is that maybe within the next 2 or 3 years, not 10, we're like, man, he's doing great in San Francisco and good for him. But we've got Harrison, we've signed XYZ, and we've locked Bregman up. Crochet is hunting for a second Cy Young. Like, we're in a position of strength. And so I don't necessarily disagree with what Craig said. If the team believed that Rafael Devers leaving the organization is what they needed to do to push themselves forward, on paper, it looks like a stupid decision. He's the best DH in the game right now. But I think it was Ian Kundle tweeted that he was in the clubhouse and it was not somber today. They were joking around. It was business as usual. And you would think that if there was a lot of issue within the team itself with trading Devers, that wouldn't have been the case today. I think the one looming question before we kind of move off the Devers thing is, do we think that this impacts you take Campbell out of it, but the big three, so throw Narvaez in, signing extensions to stay in Boston? And do we think that it skews free agents negatively to want to come to Boston?
That's a tough question to
Because
answer.
my opinion changed today.
Yeah, as more stuff leaks out, and we only have a small picture. I mean, there's definitely going to be more players talking, the front office too, and
Absolutely.
whatnot. So, yeah, as more information comes out, I'm starting to lean towards ownership, and with the whole Christian Campbell thing, where Devers had his ego hurt because Campbell offered to play first base. Yeah, I don't I don't blame Breslow for trading him, and I think other players across the league would agree for,
Mhm.
"Hey, you're not stepping out and helping the team to, put together its best lineup. That's on you."
As the
And
highest paid rostered member of the organization.
exactly, who doesn't, speak to the media that often, doesn't participate in, obligatory photo shoots and whatnot. Yeah.
Sponsorship things, and we talked about it
Mhm.
before we started recording. Who were the 3 people that were there for the City Connect reveals? Garrett Crochet, Jaron Duran, and Brian Baya. Rafael Devers was nowhere to be found.
Despite being the highest paid player on the team.
Right. And I think, and hindsight's always 2020,
Mhm.
but looking back, it's like, yeah, they were kind of maybe telling us something right here. You know?
We didn't know,
Yeah.
but the
And we
signs
just
were
we
there.
didn't know. Um, so that was a big part that um had convinced me as well. But have you seen David Ortiz's comments from today?
Yeah, and Ortiz's comments too, I think, really put me over the edge because when David Ortiz is, criticizing someone, something's up.
Hmm. And you've already got some people that are saying that Ortiz is just participating in the smear campaign.
Mhm.
They obviously, there's no way you've ever been a fan of Poppy's if you think that he is just going to bat for John Henry and company, because there's no way that you would say that if you remembered just how tumultuous his relationship with the front office was during the middle to end of his career. Poppy was playing on 1-year deals because Henry didn't want to sign him long term. I think it would probably be pretty safe to say that David Ortiz, I won't say hates John Henry, but has a strong dislike for John Henry. Um, and so for him to come out, and I'm scrolling through Hector Gomez's um, Twitter feed right now because he's kind of the one who's been putting all of this out, and it's been aggregated through different places. The first one I saw was where he said, "No one is indispensable on a team. The only way to become indispensable is by doing things the right way all the way around. You need to be available." And I think that marked the end of the relationship between the Red Sox and Devers. You have to be smart. A player's worst enemy is his ego. And guess what teams do with your ego? They buy it. And then he went on to say effectively that, I did everything they told me to because now they are paying me for the rest of my life, and Boston loves me. Now Manny has come out and said the exact opposite, that he thinks that this is all the Red Sox fault,
Oh,
and that
no.
Devers was humiliated. And he said that, one, I'm sure they didn't do that to Clemens. And then he said, and I can't imagine the Yankees telling Judge, now you're moving to catcher. Uh, but the other
Oh,
thing
no.
that stood out to me, and this came out a couple of hours ago, is Poppy said, "You can't imagine how many times I've written to Devers trying to give him advice. Unfortunately, he has communication problems. He almost never returned my messages, but I don't blame him. He's a good guy, but he definitely needs to improve his communication. He should find an advisor to help him with that. So, I mean, if you've got the first ballot DH to ever go in the Hall of Fame, reaching out to you being like, "Hey, let me help you," and you're just not returning his phone calls. Like, yeah, maybe you're not a great communicator, but that's David Ortiz.
You pick
Like,
up the phone or answer
yeah,
your Instagram DMs from David Ortiz. You don't leave him on read.
and he's been exactly where you are from the
Mhm.
opposite side. Now, granted, like when Poppy played, they didn't have the universal DH, and so he still got work at first base, but that was more of a comedic act than anything else. Um, if you're Rafael Devers and you have David Ortiz reaching out to help you, which Rafi said that he was going to reach out to Poppy and JD while he was struggling at the beginning of the season, I would assume that he probably didn't based on that. Or at least it was very like, hey, what do I need to do? And then the conversation stopped. I mean,
That's
it
on him.
really, yeah, it feels like with the more and more information that's coming out, like maybe this is what needed to happen for both sides. And that's not 24 hours ago. That's not a take that I ever thought that I would be thinking. Um, I want Rafi to hit so many home runs and to live up to that contract in San Francisco. In very much the same way, I still love Mookie Betts. I still love Xander Bogaerts. My wife and I literally just bought tickets to the Padres series in St. Louis solely because Xander Bogaerts will be there. Like he is one of my all-time favorite players. Next year, I'll go to the Giants series in St. Louis just to go see Rafi. Like, I don't hate the guy. I'm not mad at him. I think this is what both sides needed. And while it was wildly unexpected, I'm cautiously optimistic to see what the Red Sox do between now and the trade deadline. Whereas yesterday, and I can show you my text messages, that's not where I was. I was
Oh, I'm the same.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had everybody but the big four traded at some like for like, well, why don't we pick up another outfielder in high A? Like,
Just,
it
yeah, add
was
to the collection.
we just all crashed out yesterday. Do you have any wrap up closing thoughts on the Devers situation?
Yeah. I mean, I know Rafi had kinda gotten the reputation for being a loner. You'd see that, during games when the camera would pan to the dugout. Everybody would be, standing on the fence,
Hmm.
watching the game closely, and he'd just be kind of sulking in the dugout by himself, and
Yeah.
that's also not helpful for the vibes of the team. Like, you want
No.
everybody to, like, get along, happiness
Hmm.
feeds into the team's energy,
And I
and
think if
when
Sandra was still here, it'd be a different situation.
100%. I've thought about that too. Like,
I don't think we
what
would
if
have ever gotten here.
yeah, if Xander was here, given like, hey, if the team didn't pay Trevor Story, you know,
Hmm.
and kept Xander, I think we would be in a very different situation now.
Yeah.
And I think Xander helped him, with, some of his, personality flaws.
Yes, I agree. And Xander was very quick to, if he could tell that Devers was getting in the weeds with something, Xander was right there. And he was very much I'll be your voice. I'll step in front of the camera for you. I'll do whatever you need me to do. And I think, I hate to call him a security blanket, but I think that's what Devers lost when Xander ultimately signed with the Padres.
Well, it'll be up to Matt Chapman now to do to be a security blanket.
I kind of bet that won't go nearly as well. Um, Maybe Adamas, Willie Adamas can be his dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he's bilingual, which would
Mhm.
help. I was talking about this with some friends, and have you ever seen the discourse around the team translator not being on Rafi's side.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Devers would
I
give
guess
these
I'll
like paragraph answers, and he'd be like, "Yeah, he thinks that Boston's great."
like, so succinct.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess I'll have to follow the Giants now, and their games are past my bedtime, but,
Oh, absolutely.
um, I just wanna see how his new relationship is with, whoever the Giants
Mhm.
decide to, make his translator.
That's something that the Section 10 guys talked about, which I haven't made it through the newest episode all the way yet, but they talk about that pretty early. Is that like you have to wonder like how the translator feels. If it was a relief, like okay, I don't have to pretend that he just didn't threaten to fight Craig Breslow. Like
Yeah.
so. I think that'll be interesting to see. Like you said, to be honest, I'm probably not going to stay up for most of these games this week. I'll probably turn them
Yeah.
on as I go to bed and then fall asleep with them on. Uh, I think the Saturday and Sunday games are both afternoon games, so I'll watch those. But Friday night, I'll probably watch Friday night too. But it will be very curious to see just how the Giants handle that. And I think that they won't have to worry about it because I think he's going to go out there and everything that's going to be, man, this is awesome. I'm so happy to be here. I'll do whatever the team needs me to do. Because I think one thing that we've probably learned about Rafael Devers throughout all of this is that he's pretty petty. And I think that he's gonna take some shots in the media over this next week, especially with the Red Sox coming to San Francisco on Friday.
It's an MLB Network game too, so lots
Yeah,
of coverage.
I can't wait to hear Ken Rosenthal.
Oh,
Just
no.
uh,
Oh,
thank God for
yeah.
MLB TV letting you overlay the radio
Oh,
call because I just listened to the Wills. And
yeah.
when it's a national game, Loomer is on the radio call too, and so you get the Wills and Loomer going, and it's
It's the
phenomenal.
yeah, it's such a good group. They
Yeah,
really feed off each other.
I wish that Nesson would bring them over
Yeah.
and replace Dob because
Oh,
Dave
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 is
has
not
more
it.
Dave has more enthusiasm when the visiting or the opposing team hits a home run than he does when the
Yeah.
Red Sox hit a home run. So hopefully he's not long for that job. Um, had the Red Sox traded Devers to San Diego, maybe we could have got Orsillo back in the deal.
That would have been better than Jordan Hicks.
Yeah, I'd take Orsillo over Jordan Hicks all day. In more positive news, we've already talked about Roman Anthony just a little bit because during recording, he hit his first major league home run, which is something that this fan base sorely needed after the past 24 hours. The entire Big Three is now at the major league level, and Marcelo Meyer might be the best third baseman we've had in decades.
Man, watching him field the ball is beautiful. He's
He
so
is so
athletic.
cool. He is just so
Yeah.
cool. He's
Yo,
the coolest
he
guy in the world.
amen. No, his energy just he has this confidence. Can I well, there's a term for his aura.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
no, I can't say it, but you can sort
yeah.
of
I
like
know
what
exactly
I'm
what you
thinking.
mean.
He just he's so cool and he's really fast and Sox prospects,
Man.
wrote he had like a below average run speed, but
Mhm.
on Savant, he's in the 67th percentile for sprint speed. And I
Yeah.
think playing third base is helping him tap into that, his overall athleticism on the
Mhm.
base pass because third base isn't, as intensive as shortstop.
No, I do think that. So I think kind of the plan is when Alex Bregman comes back is to rotate Bregman through the DH spot. Um, Craig even alluded to it or came out and said in the presser today that this allows them to be more flexible with the DH position. So I don't think that you'll see Bregman do like a full time DH thing at all. Um, but I think that you'll see Bregman DH, and then Marcelo slot in at third during those appearances. But I honestly think that there's still probably some push in the organization to get Trevor Story out come the trade deadline. And so I think that at some point this year, we will see Marcelo shift over to short. Unless he's shifting to second in the event they send Campbell to AAA to get some reps, which his swings have looked better. And we'll talk more about Campbell. We're talking about Marcelo and his energy at the moment. But I think that he's the shot in the arm this team needed. And it took him, a couple, 3 games to get his feet under him. And he's still kind of swinging out of his shoes at splitters.
Yeah.
But I think that's every rookie in the majors, because it seems that the split is a pitch that's not thrown in the minors hardly at all. It seems like that's a pitch that's maybe added in the minors and then perfected in the majors. And so they haven't seen a bunch of really good ones. And since he's been called up, we've faced a lot of really good split finger pitchers. So I don't see anything in his game really that worries me. His first at bat, he looked so calm in the box. And that's something you can't teach. You can't teach that calmness. You can't teach that, okay, I'm here. I'm on the Red Sox. I'm making my home debut in the second game of a doubleheader. And I'm just going to go out here and play baseball, man. Like, you can't teach that. That is just a calmness that exudes out of him. But when he makes these incredible catches and throws a bullet over to Gonzalez or Toro at first, and then is pounding his chest as he walks off the field, like, I love that. That is just so good. And I can't wait to see what he does. I think that we're going to see – I mean, he's not going to make the All-Star team or anything like that, but second half Marcelo, I think, could be a game changer for this organization.
Yeah, the passion on the field just exudes throughout the team, and it also helps other players, hey, this guy, he just made a great play. I can do that then.
Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding. I'm trying to think, like, yes, we have Bregman. Devers was at third. I mean, I can't think of anybody who has played that position in recent memory that has inspired that much confidence. I don't know. That was supposed to be Millbrooks. And then that went sideways. Uke.
His stance was just so awkward.
I love it.
Yeah.
I tried to recreate it all the time when I was growing up. I thought it was great. But like I said, I'm sure he will eventually move to short, which is his natural position. But in the event Alex Bregman opts out at the end of the season, which neither one of us think will happen, but in the event that does happen, or the Red Sox fail to lock him up long term, I would be perfectly fine with rolling Marcelo Meyer out as our starting third baseman game 1 of 2026. Now that leaves a giant question mark at shortstop.
Well, trade for Ellie De La Cruz.
Yes, that's the game plan. As stupid as this is, once all of this started coming out and it was like the Red Sox are going to compete and they're going to make a big a big trade before the deadline, I immediately went to Paul Skeens.
I thought about that too.
Okay, good.
Well, they're hoarding. They have I have a list. They have the password in AAA. Tibbs the third in high. No, he was
He'll be at
AA Portland.
Yeah.
Yofuri Rodriguez. I apologize.
That's who they got for Quinn Priester.
Yeah, and he's in high A, I think, and Miguel Blaise also in high A. Just they're stockpiling all these lower level caliber outfield prospects, and that fits perfectly with Pittsburgh's time whatever their timeline is back to contention.
And I think that there's something to be said with like Franklin Arias, who has blocked at every single position that he plays to because he's a shortstop, he's second base.
Mhm.
If Campbell really is the second base of the future and Marcelo is going to shift over to shortstop at some point this season or next, there's no room for Arias. Yolan Cespedes, same thing.
Throw David Sandlin in there.
Well, we're just talking about fielders right now. Sandlin leads the pitcher. I kind of want to see Sandlin called up. I think him coming out of the bullpen would be huge. He has a cannon on the mound.
He's looked good in the minors this year.
Yeah, and I think that Brennan Bernardino is just so overworked at this point that he needs
a
I know
break.
he had like 3 days off before he pitched Sunday, and Sunday he was real shaky.
Mm-hmm.
Or was that Saturday?
Whenever he came into close.
That was Saturday.
Was it Saturday? Yeah.
That was Saturday because I was watching on Game Time because we took my kids to the water park and then out to get ice cream. And so, yeah, it was a fun day. But I was watching on Game Time because they were watching as part of their ice cream treat. They got to watch Disney Plus while we were sitting out there eating ice cream.
Nice.
So I was watching on Game Time, so I didn't disturb them. But I kept saying, not that like my wife cares at all. I was like, I don't understand why Brennan Bernardino is out here. They've called 4 sliders in a row. They've all missed. Like, he needs more than 3 days off. So I think that he might stand from a trip back to Worcester. And I wouldn't hate it if David Sandlin came up to take that spot. You don't need 3 lefties in the bullpen.
Yeah, that's too many.
Yeah. Even if one of them is your closer. But so that could be another Rookie of the Year candidate if he comes up. But no, the first place I went was Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
Like I said, and there's a lot of trade pieces in the minors. I think realistically, if that was on the table, you tell them pick either Jarren Duran, Ceddanne Rafaela, or Wilyer Abreu, and then you can have Garcia, the password. You can have what's that? You could have Arias or Cespedes or I want to say Connie Early, but he's a pitcher. Why am I forgetting his name? And it's going to pop up to me here in just a second. Mikey Romero, also blocked at every position that he plays. Like, we're going to have to start trading them. And if, because Cherington is still out in Pittsburgh, like he is still the GM. Like, I think that there was a reason why Nick York was traded straight up for Quinn Priester, and it wasn't to bring in Quinn Priester. I think that for as much crap as Craig Breslow gets, I think that he has opened all of these lines of communications with these teams that Chaim Bloom wouldn't talk to because Bloom was so concerned about trying to win every trade that he made, that I think that if Breslow called Cherington and was like, just hear me out, let me put a package in front of you, I think Cherington would listen. Would he do that? I don't know.
Yeah, they've had previous trade history with the Pirates. Didn't they trade Michael Chavis back in the day?
Yes, but that was Bloom.
That was Bloom. Okay.
Or no, or did Chavis sign as a free agent, or was he traded?
Or was he DFA'd?
I think he was DFA'd.
Okay. So, but even with the Quinn Priester trade, there's history there, and they could work out something.
His latest transactions don't include anything with the Red Sox.
And going back to Breslow, a part of me
they traded Chavis to the Pirates for Austin Davis.
Huh.
That was in 21. So
Bloom.
So that would have been Bloom. So I guess to take back what I said, Bloom did call the Pirates, or the Pirates called him. to get the ice horse.
That's such a good nickname.
It's the best.
But going back to Breslow, and just I guess his strategies for moving players. Apparently, other teams didn't know that you know Devers was on the chopping block, and it was Buster Posey who called up and said, "Hey, you know, want to trade Devers?" And a part of me was wondering, just was Breslow playing 4D chess this whole time with leaking stuff to the media to insinuate he was on the market and just waiting for somebody to make an offer for Devers?
That's a really good point. I've made the 4D chess joke about Craig a lot, but I don't hate that thought. I mean, because Craig went to Harvard? Or
Yale.
was it Yale? Yale, okay.
Skull and Bones.
Yeah, yes. He's obviously incredibly intelligent. And it really makes you wonder if kind of when all of this happened during spring training, and then that's when Craig kind of soured on Devers. And I think the nail in the coffin, because that was around like May 9th, May 10th, when it was about a week after Costas went down, because that was like May 3rd. That was like first or second game of the month. It was a Friday night game. And then it was about a week later when Devers made those comments where he just kept calling him the GM and never used his name, which is a very Alex Cora tactic.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure that that's at least when all of this kind of started, like the trade thought. Posey came out and said that he's been talking to Breslow for about 3 weeks about this. So that would line up to the end of May at this point.
And when did Breslow, Kennedy, and Henry fly out to Kansas
that was
City?
the Kansas City series.
End of May?
It looks like the final game was May 11th.
Okay.
So May 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Beginning, middle. So,
Yeah.
But even then, that got national media coverage. So teams knew something was awry. Yeah.
And now you have to assume that conversation didn't go well.
Well,
because it was just between Henry and Devers. And I think what came out was Henry told Brez, like, it was productive. Typically that carries a positive connotation, but it could very easily carry a negative conversation to Henry. Yes, it was productive. I now know what I want to do with him. I assume that the conversation was pretty much like, I'm paying you $300 million. You're going to play first base if we need you to play first base. And was it last week where Sam Kennedy came out and said that Devers would play first base when the time is right?
Or was that Cora?
I'm pretty sure it was Kennedy.
Okay.
Because the whole conversation was, well, wouldn't the time have been right after the Costas injury? And so once again, hindsight being 2020, like obviously Sam was aware of what was being discussed behind the scenes. And so I don't think that conversation went well. And I think that John Henry effectively told him, like, I'm paying you and I'm paying you a lot of money. And if the person that I hired to be your manager wants you to play first base, or my president of baseball operations, because it's come out that they've tried to keep Cora and Devers separate in all of this. so as not to ruin the relationship. That's why Breslow was the one that talked to Devers most of the time. Or if my president of baseball ops comes to you and says, "Hey, I need you to play first base. I need you to learn how to play first base," you're going to say yes. And Devers was probably like, "No, I'm a hitter. He told me to throw my glove away." And I think that John Henry walked out of that conversation and realistically probably told Craig that day, "Hey, try to find a way to trade Rafael Devers." And here we are.
Even that, yeah, the way you laid out that conversation, you had said earlier about Henry not wanting to pay, or take on any of Devers' contract. That ties back to the whole
Mm-hmm.
conversation in Kansas City, where I honestly don't blame Henry for wanting to pay. I mean, what is it? Devers $25 million when he said he wouldn't, take the field when the team needed it.
Yeah. And this isn't like a Pablo Sandoval situation. Like Pablo quit on the team. And so Henry was effectively either paying him to sit on the bench or was going to DFA him and pay him that way. If you had a team that was willing to take on it's $254 million over the next 8 years of the deal. You found somebody in Buster Posey who is trying to prove his mantle as a GM of a fairly big market team, but a team that has underperformed the last few seasons, and he's trying to push all of his chips into into the middle of the table and go all in. And if Devers was the guy that he kind of spotlighted as like, okay, I can bring him in and he's going to help us hopefully win a World Series or two over the next 8 years. And Craig said, okay, yeah, sure. Give me 2 deals. Give me a deal where we pay X amount of his deal down and give me a deal where we pay none of it down and you take all of it. And then Mystery Team X had also a deal where they're like, okay, well, you pay X amount, we'll send you these prospects, whatever. And John goes, yeah, take the deal where we don't pay him any more money. It makes sense.
And good for the Giants. They whiffed on Ohtani, Aaron Judge,
Arson
Bryce
Judge.
Harper, or Arson Judge. Never forget. Man, that tweet lives in
I forgot
infamy.
that they whipped on Harper too.
Harper, Corey Seager, Carlos Correa. But I mean, there were some issues there, and he's been injured for on and off. So I don't blame them for deciding to back out on that. But they got their big bat now, and
it would have to be either them or the Blue Jays would be the 2 teams that would be willing to pay all of that deal down. Because the Blue Jays have missed out on pretty much that exact same list of players over the past 5 to 6 years. I don't know if you remember the people tracking the flight that they thought was Ohtani from.
That was so funny.
And Blue Jays Twitter just went nuts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I was worried because I thought I don't want Ohtani in the AL East.
No. Oh, I was terrified. I was so scared. And then when it came out, I was very relieved.
Yeah. Or there was also something floating around about there's a big dinner reservation at a fancy sushi restaurant in Toronto, and then it was just Kikuchi's birthday dinner.
Yeah. I forgot about that part too. I think it would have had to have been a team like the Giants. And did that lessen the return that the Red Sox got back for Devers? Absolutely. But I think just kind of based on everything that's come out, Craig Breslow saw a way to free up $20 million a season over the next 8 years, whether he's here for 8 years or not, and jumped at the opportunity to do it, to try to potentially this season and for the upcoming seasons make the team better. And like he said, and I didn't think coming into today, that I would be kind of maybe on ownership's side more than I am on Rafi's. Um, I think I think there's a path to do it, and I think that getting Devers off the team, while it stings as a fan, these people are infinitely smarter about baseball than I am. That's why they have the job that they have, and they could fall flat on their faces. And from the press conference, it looks like Breslow is willing to accept that fate. Um, and I'm cautious. I said it earlier. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to see something productive come out of this over the next. We're what, 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out from the trade deadline. That's a lot of baseball. But if the Red Sox continue to play well, which is score check, it's now 2-0 in Seattle in the top of the fifth as we record this. And that's against Gilbert too, which I know it's his first start coming off the IL. But man, if the Red Sox continue to win games.
No, is it Gilbert? Gilbert hasn't been pitching that well this. Or no, I'm thinking of Bryce Miller. Never mind.
Yeah, Miller. Gilbert's been on the IL since not long after that. Not long after opening weekend. Because he was on the IL when the Mariners came to Boston. Or maybe he went on the IL just after that series. Somewhere around there, I think. But I don't know. If Seattle kind of continues to falter, I wrote last week that I think that a deal sending either Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu out to Seattle makes a lot of sense if you do get a Logan Gilbert or a Brian Wu in return. And I think that Jerry DiPoto, while not known for spending money, is kind of in a, hey, if I don't do something, I'm probably going to lose my job mode. So maybe you can get him to overpay. And if he thinks that Gilbert is down now after this injury, I would trade Jarren Duran for Logan Gilbert.
I might lean towards Abreu for that, but
I think the team values Wilyer more than they value Jarren. And that's honestly why I always go to Jarren as the trade piece in the outfield. Is I think that Alex Cora believes in Jarren Duran, and I think that very few people outside of Alex Cora also believe in Jarren Duran. And I think that the trade package, that if you're comparing package to package, I think that the trade package for Jarren Duran is significantly larger than the trade package for Wilyer Abreu.
I think the time to trade Abreu would have been in the offseason when, he had just won his Gold Glove.
Same for Duran.
There were still some questions with Abreu about, maybe he can hit left-handed pitching, but now he's kind of solidified his status as a platoon hitter. So, Duran probably would get a bigger package. However, he has been he's moved down in the lineup, and he's also sat for a couple of those games. Yeah, Friday against left-handed pitching, and ref was in the lineup over him. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
I actually had a piece cooking about how it felt like the Yankee series was a test run for life without Duran, and I have shelved it in the wake of the trade stuff. It'll come back out in the next week or so, probably, though. But I think to kind of tie it all back together, like I think that there's a path forward here, and I got a Slack notification from one of our co-writers that 100% disagrees with our takes that we're talking about here.
Oh, no.
That's fine. But I'm gonna to steal a 76ers tagline that
Oh.
never panned out. I'm gonna trust the process. And
Oh.
yeah. And I don't know. I think that there's a path to being a better baseball team after dealing Rafael Devers. And like I said, 24 hours ago, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I'm glad we waited to record, let it marinate for, a day and,
Yeah.
have hear directly from, Breslow and company.
Yeah.
And yeah, now, the team can do some things. Devers at DH, for the next how many years kind of, you know, made the roster inflexible. And now DH is open. You can rotate that to give dudes rest as needed. You can pursue maybe Kyle Schwarber at the trade deadline, starting pitching with the and a possible extension for Cease, Gallen,
Mhm.
King,
So I think that
and
Gallen is the interesting conversation there because the Diamondbacks are underperforming quite a bit. And with Corbin Burns getting Tommy John surgery, you have to think that there's no eggs in this basket for 2025 anymore. And if they think that Gallen is gone, hmm, like I think that could be a fun conversation.
Gallen's one of my favorite pitchers in the league. I'd go crazy if he
Yeah,
was a Red Sox for or on
yeah,
the Red Sox for the rest of his career. Man,
yeah.
I love him, and he's also an East Coast kid, so
Hmm.
maybe he'd want to be closer to home, for the rest
Exactly.
of his
Yeah,
career.
I think it'll be interesting. Um, to kind of put a bow, I know we really only talked about Marcelo. Anthony obviously hit his first home run as we recorded. That's his second major league hit since being called up. Um, he's had a quiet debut, but also much like Marcelo, like it doesn't seem like the moment is far too big for Roman Anthony, um, and you love to see that. Um, obviously, I would love if they would take some of this money and lock both him and Marcelo up um, in for 10 years, give him a little more length than what you gave Campbell. Um, but that remains to be seen if that's going to happen. Um, but once again, the slow start doesn't worry me. Sitting against lefties doesn't worry me um, because I fully agree with what Cora said. Like, yeah, he has reverse splits. They both had reverse splits in AAA. You don't see lefties in AAA like you see lefties. Excuse me, in the majors. It just you're in the majors as a left-handed pitcher because you're a dominant left-handed pitcher. At least as starters. So easing them into that, which is exactly what they did with Tristan Casas. It's exactly what they did with Rafael Devers. It's exactly what
Aaron
they did
Duran.
with Jaron Duran. It's what they're still doing with Abreu. Like, there's a precedent for this. And while I don't agree with every decision Alex Cora makes, he is far smarter about baseball than I could ever hope to be. And I trust his process there to ease these young players into this because as somebody who works with teenagers, their egos are fragile. And I know that we talked about egos with Big Poppy like in a negative connotation. Here, that's not what I mean. Like, and we've talked about how Marcelo and Roman don't seem like the moment's too big for them and that they're ready for this, but it's different when you've gone over 22 against left-handed pitchers because then that thought does creep up in the back of your head. Okay, well, can I hit lefties at the major league level? Let them get to work on these lefties out of the bullpen. Other teams' versions of Brennan Bernardino and Justin Wilson. Let them hit off of them first. And then you work in Tyler Yarbrough, who sucks against the Red Sox. Come the next Yankees series, I guarantee you that if we see Yarbrough or if he gets traded and he goes somewhere else, the next time we see Ryan Yarbrough, both of them will be in the lineup. I can almost guarantee it. Wilyer will probably be in that lineup too. It's smart baseball. You have to protect these kids a little bit. You can't just throw them to the wolves.
Well, based on what fans' reactions to Cora a couple weeks ago, you would have thought he was on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But
And there was some chatter about that in our Slack, and there was a couple articles that were. I kind of wrote the first one in that line, but mine wasn't a Cora needs to be fired. It was, if you're going to get rid of Cora, you have to give him this season. You have to let him finish the year. And I think, like, even if things go south, I think that's still what has to happen unless Cora demands his way out.
Cora's a smart dude. I trust him. There was that Athletic article that was published about managers that players, would want to,
Mm-hmm.
play,
Yep.
which team they would want which manager they would want,
Yeah.
leading their team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Cora was, one of the top recipients. He
He was
had
number
more votes
2,
than
wasn't he?
Yeah, he had
Yeah.
more votes than Dave Roberts, which says something.
Yeah, because at one point before Cora signed the extension and before Roberts then consequently signed his extension, was that both managers were effectively going to trade jobs going into this season.
Mhm.
That Cora would either wind up as one of the Dodgers, the Yankees, or the Phillies manager, and that the Red Sox would get Dave Roberts, was the leading conversation heading into mid-year last year. And when Cora signed that extension, I was worried that he had made the wrong decision. And there was I had conversations yesterday that, like, oh, I bet Cora's furious. They've posted, it looks like he was spoken to in the dugout. Milliken obviously posted it. And I love Milliken. If you're not a Section 10 person, you should still follow Tyler Milliken. He's goofy, but man, he knows ball, and he's a great follow. I'm gonna watch it once we're done here in a little bit, but I think that I don't think Cora's going anywhere, I guess is where I'm trying to go with that. I think that he signed a 3-year deal. Breslow's probably got 3 years left, and then Cora will transition into the president of baseball operations, and I don't know who will be the manager. It kind of seems like Veritek doesn't want it.
I don't blame him.
No, I think that it would be very difficult to go back to a team that you're held in such high regard as a player, and you don't want to ruin that reputation by coming in and falling flat on your face. I wouldn't hate Skip Schumacher in that role. Last year, before Cora signed the extension, I was heavy on the Red Sox need to look at Skip Schumacher for the next manager train. I thought he was great. He did the best that he could in Miami. He was managing a AA roster at a major league level, and got them to win baseball games in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Derek Shelton will obviously have a job by then, but I love Shelty. And if Cora was going to be gone, I think Shelty is the perfect guy to step in next year. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So I've got here. What do you got, Maddie?
Yeah, going back to, well, he's not part of the big three, but Rookie of the Year candidates.
Yeah.
Carlos Narvaez, who we had talked about this a few episodes ago, around spring training. We thought Narvaez would be a backup catcher, and now he's the team's primary catcher, who's posting amazing stats in his rookie year. and Cal Raleigh will mash the ball, but
Yeah.
Narvaez could very well be the American League, backup catcher for the All-Star game.
Yeah. Yeah. And if Cal Raleigh wasn't doing what he's doing, he would be the starting catcher for the American League, without a doubt. Narvaez, that trade was barely a blip on my radar when it happened. In fact, I remember in our Slack channel, there were some people that were like, I can't believe we traded. I don't even remember who the prospect is at the moment.
Elmer Rodriguez
Yes,
Cruz.
Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. Yes. Like, I can't believe we gave up Rodriguez Cruz for this guy. And I was like, because I wrote a primer on Rodriguez Cruz, like, as just like here are our top, like, we broke down like the top 20 prospects in like groups, and Rodriguez Cruz was one of mine. And when I was writing, I was like, there's just nothing here that stands out to me about him. Like, he's a good pitcher, and I think he's doing all right in the Yankee system now. Give me Carlos Narvaez 10 times out of 10 over Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. I don't care if Rodriguez Cruz goes on to be a contributing starter for the Yankees. This season alone, that deal specifically, I think proves just how intelligent Craig Breslow is. And it's come out in the last couple of weeks that, like, because Narvaez played one of the last few games last year against the Red Sox, and that's when Breslow and Cora were like, we need to figure out a way to get that guy. He didn't have a great year while he was in the majors last year, but they both saw something in him, and look at what he's done now. Like, he walked them off Friday night.
4D chess.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has to be at least a top 3 rookie of the year candidate right now. I think that there's a path for Marcelo to be a rookie of the year candidate. I think there's a path for Roman Anthony to be a rookie of the year candidate. That ship has likely sailed for Christian Campbell. I think that if he
really pick it up,
he would have to play out of his mind for 6 weeks during a meaningful stretch of Red Sox baseball. If the Red Sox are sitting 10 games below 500, but all of a sudden Christian Campbell is knocking in, he's hitting over 350 during that stretch, that's not going to get him a rookie of the year. But yeah, I mean, realistically, there's 3 realistically, potentially 4 rookie of the year candidates right there. And I think that Narvaez really has a great shot to win it.
Yeah, just hearing how the starting pitchers talk about Narvaez and the way he calls games is amazing.
Yeah.
You'd never hear pitchers praise Connor Wong, and
no, and they did last year, which I think is just another just stark difference in just how far he has fallen. And I'll be honest, I think it was Saturday. No, he started Sunday. Where he hit into yet another double play with 1 out and runners in scoring position. And he hit first, and he just slammed the crap out of his helmet on the ground. Like, I legitimately feel bad for him, because he wants to contribute. He wants to be the player that he was for half the season last year. And they did all of these tweaks to his catching mechanics, and his defense has gotten better, and he still can't throw anybody out that's trying to steal second. But Narvaez, that's really the lone knock against Narvaez, is his pop time and arm strength from home to second isn't the best. But typically, he puts himself in a stance where that's not as big of an issue. But then after the whole Walker Buehler situation, where the ball was right down the middle, but because of Narvaez's stance, it was called a ball. He's stopped standing as high when he does it. Now for Wong on Sunday with the glove drop to pick off, who was it? Was it Ben Rice on
Yeah,
second?
Ben Rice.
That's just intuitive baseball. And good on Bayo for being able to read that glove drop and successfully throw the ball from the pitcher's mound to second base, which is something that the Red Sox have struggled with this year. But I feel bad for Wong, and I want him to be successful, but I think realistically, I look for the Red Sox to add another catcher in free agency this offseason, potentially trade for a backup catcher if they're looking to legitimately try and compete for a playoff spot this year. And it wouldn't shock me to see Wong DFA'd for sure over the offseason. I think it happens over the offseason no matter what. I wouldn't be shocked to see it happen sometime this year if they can pull off a trade for a Christian Vasquez, some a veteran catcher who is fine to come in and be a backup. I'd love to get Vasquez back. I would absolutely love to have Christian back.
I'd take that reunion over a JD Martinez one.
Yeah, me too.
Well, again, this ties back to the whole Devers conversation. I saw this tweet. It was from some Braves fan account, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But apparently the Braves offered Marcelo Zuna and Sean Murphy for Devers. I think the Red Sox would have had to, eat some of Devers' contract. But still, that makes you wonder.
Murphy was a conversation in the offseason. I remember that. I don't think that's a deal that I would do. One, I don't care for Ozuna.
Yeah.
And you're effectively, I know technically he's a left fielder, but you're effectively swapping a DH for a DH. And Sean Murphy has had a down season, to put it nicely, this year. And I don't think that he would want to come in and be a backup to Narvaez. And I don't think that if you're trading for a catcher, you're trading for somebody who would come in with that kind of pedigree and expect to start. Because I think that Sean Murphy still feels, and rightfully so, that he is a starting catcher in the league, because he is. I think that if you're looking to deal for a catcher, you are looking in the Vasquez market. You're not looking in the Murphys or Real Muto. I think you probably could have talked to the Phillies about Real Muto for Devers. But I don't think that that's a name. I don't think you would bring him in, because if you trust Narvaez, you don't bring in somebody like Murphy or Real Muto. If it was Rushman, yeah.
Oh,
I think that you would then
yeah.
I think you would then shift him to first base.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't played at first base throughout his major league career. But
because catching's not doing it for him.
Yeah, and is it Basillo? The Orioles yeah, they have a pretty good catching prospect coming up soon. But Murphy too, he had that knee issue and that oblique strain, and ever since then he's been kind of washed. Same with Real Muto too. He had a meniscus surgery and somehow came back, just a little over a month after his surgery.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's never his bat is dead.
Yeah. And if you're looking to bring one of them in, it's for defense only. It goes back. I would rather keep Narvaez and his bat in the lineup than bring in a big name catcher just to say you've brought in a big name catcher at this point. 3 years ago, when the Braves traded for Sean Murphy, absolutely. But now, no. Is there anything else that's happened since the last time we recorded that we haven't touched on that you think that we do need to kind of go over real quick before we wrap it up?
I don't. Do you?
No, I would have loved to have gone more in depth about the starters and stuff, and just this stretch run that they've been on, which it seems like Giolito is continuing. It's the bottom of the sixth right here as we're wrapping up. It's 2-0. Giolito's got one out, and it looks like Rodriguez is up to bat. So if he does this, this will be the sixth start in a row that Red Sox starters have gone through six. So you do love to see that. So maybe the pitching lab has figured something out again. So we'll kind of wait and see on that. But that can be a conversation once we get done with, this Mariner series, and the Giant series will also be done by the time we record again. So we'll have more Devers to talk about next week. But yeah, I think that's really about it. Do you have any pieces that you're working on that'll be coming out?
I don't at the moment. Do you?
I've got a couple that are just kind of sitting. And then, like I said, I'm hoping to do something about the Yahoo article tomorrow. And then I'm sure I'll kind of fire it back up as we approach the trade deadline, because I've got some names that I would like to see the Red Sox bring in, that are kind of off the wall a little bit. But yeah, I don't have anything just outside. I've got a couple pieces that are sitting there that are kind of shelved until we navigate this post Devers landscape a little bit more.
Well, to tie everything together at the end, the Red Sox now could possibly take on Vladdy's contract.
I've said from the beginning that a package of Tristan Casas and Aaron Duran would have landed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I stand by that. But I think he's got significantly less interest in coming to the Red Sox, even than he had the day that he signed that extension. Now that Rafael Devers is no longer a member of the team. So it'll always be just a pipe dream. Unless, of course, John Henry puts his money where his mouth is and figures out a way to steal Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to play first base for the Boston Red Sox. But I don't anticipate that happening. So we know it's been a little bit since we've recorded, and obviously we haven't really addressed it. Adam's not on this one. We're hoping to be back for the next one. Yeah, please, interact on the website and on YouTube comments and all that, and like and subscribe and follow along. And, if you comment along, we'll read it, and we might talk about it on the podcast next episode. So thanks for checking out the Talk Sox podcast, and we will see you guys next week.
Take care.